It's on now. Yeah. Good evening. My name is Richard Gaines. I serve as pastor here at Consolidated, and I have done so for the past 28 years, and it's my privilege to welcome each of you here on this evening. We are excited that you're here, and we're excited because by your being here, you're saying, I'm interested in what's going on around me. I believe that informed people make better decisions, and that's what tonight is about, providing information. You'd have a chance to meet the candidates for the school board positions, District 1, District 3, and District 5, the candidates themselves, to hear from them personally, up close, so you don't have to ask somebody that went, how did it go, what was said? You're here to experience it for yourself, and we are grateful that you thought enough of the issues and the candidates themselves to come out and share on this evening. We have a moderator tonight to lead us in this time, Brother Mario Anderson, and we're excited to have him here. Help me just welcome him if you don't mind. He will lead us in a time where we hear from our candidates or the candidates themselves. And so we're doing this, again, to provide information for the community. When we planned this, we didn't see any other offerings throughout the community, and I think several have popped up since then, and that's a wonderful thing. But we want to make sure that the community, as much as possible, had an opportunity to be aware of the concerns of the community with clear-cut answers from the candidates themselves, so that when you go to vote, you will do so from an informed perspective. We trust that your being here says that you're serious about the issues at hand as we seek to move forward as a district. If you've been paying attention, you know we have a lot of things going on, not just in our district, but across the state. And so let me take this opportunity to remind all of us that when we cast our vote, that we cast our votes from the top of the ballot to the end of the ballot. There are more things on the ballot than simply the presidential election or the school board elections. There are very important issues in between. So we want you to be informed about and able to vote with a good conscience and an informed knowledge of what's on the ballot. Depending on who you talk to, we've got a lot of things on the ballot. Some go so far as to say democracy itself is on the ballot. All I know is it's an important election year, and you get a chance to voice your opinion by casting your vote. So again, we welcome you. We thank you tonight for being here. Make yourself comfortable, but tune in as we hear from our candidates. And at this time, I will yield and allow my brother Mario Anderson to come forth and lead us through the evening. Amen.
Well, good evening once again. I am Mario Anderson with Spectrum News 1. If you're not familiar with that, it's on Spectrum Cable, Channel 1, when you turn on your cable device, and I anchor the morning show. And a morning show starts at 5 a.m. every day, so my alarm is set for 2:35 each morning. So I'll be at work tomorrow after our great candidate forum. But appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we'll get things started, and we'll kind of lay out what the plan will be for this evening with some opening information for you all, so everyone's clear on the progress or the process for this evening. So obviously you all know I'm the moderator for tonight, and we're going to be helping the community learn more about the candidates and the issues surrounding the Fayette County Public School races in districts races 1, 3, and 5. And also this evening, as we get things going, the questions for the forum will cover a variety of issues, including how to close the achievement gaps in the district, the school board's role in providing oversight and accountability for the district and superintendent's progress, just to name a few, And then also this evening, we're going to be talking about a lot of wide-ranging issues that was impactful and interesting for the candidates to be able to participate in. But what we'll do now, I'll get my notes in front of me, we'll introduce our candidates, and we'll go from there. I also want to let you all know as well that the candidates this evening, the questions that they will be hearing, they were not provided in advance at all. And again, once we do get started in a moment, each candidate will give a 1-minute opening statement and then a 1-minute closing statement. And then during the forum, each candidate will have 90 seconds each to answer each question. And all candidates on the panel will be asked to answer the same question posed before another question is asked this evening. And again, the order in which the candidates are asked to respond to the questions will alternate throughout the forum this evening. And then also, depending on the discussion, may ask you all a follow-up question or to clarify something if that comes up this evening. And now, let's officially meet the candidates. Running to represent the 1st District, incumbent Marilyn Clark, and then her opponent, Monica Mundy, and they're running in the general election for Fayette County Board of Education District 1, which includes the western part of Fayette County and pulls from areas roughly between Leestown and Harrodsburg roads. We also have Kathleen Penny Christian and Danny Anthony Everett, and also Isaac Seaborn's on the ballot. He's not here this evening, but they're running in the general election for Fayette County Board of Education District number 3, and that includes the eastern section of Fayette County, and that's parts of Hamburg, Childsburg, and outbound Richmond Road, and there are no incumbents running in this race. And then finally this evening, we've got incumbent Amy Green and Betsy Rutherford. They're running in the general election for Fayette County Board of Education District 5, which includes parts of southern Fayette County, stretches from Picadome and Lafayette areas to Malibu and Southland Drives and Chilito and Veterans Park, and many areas in between for all the candidates. At this time, we'll begin with our 1-minute opening statements, and we'll start first. Again, we had random drawing between the candidates, and Penny Christian will be delivering her opening statement first, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Penny Christian. I am my husband and I have brought 4 girls, 4 now young black women, through Fayette County Public Schools, Glendover, Morton, and Lafayette. I wouldn't change a thing. They were the best experiences ever. But I am here with a 20-plus year passion for fighting for kids. I am an advocate. Those of you who know me know I tend to be a little bit outspoken. Those of you who don't know me, I hope you will find out very quickly that what I say with my whole chest and 10 toes down. So I love what I do. I love kids. I love to do what's best for kids, and I love to hold people accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we'll have Danny Anthony Everett deliver his opening statements for 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, first and foremost. Thank you, Reverend Gaines and his church, and I'm glad to see all these people that are here today. My name is Dr. Danny Anthony Everett, and I believe in world-class education for all of our students, achieving that through early childhood engagement, number 1, secondly, equitable schools, and number 3, through experience and effective leadership. Part of that leadership is what I have, I come to the table with. Part of what I've done in the past is to be a part of the school district in terms of the Equity Council and other volunteer opportunities, but I've been in other school districts as well. I've worked with programs to create opportunities for people with cerebral palsy, done a number of different things. So I am very interested in being the next member of the board from District 3, and I solicit your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we'll have Betsy Rutherford deliver her opening statement, and she has 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Consolidated Baptist Church for hosting this event. I have a vast experience with Fayette County Public Schools. I spent 10 years right down the road at Russell Cave Elementary as principal. I have been at Morton Middle School, Southern Middle School, Garden Springs Elementary. I taught at Stonewall Elementary. I have also been interim principals at several schools since retirement: Booker T. Washington, Harrison Elementary, Yates Elementary, Mill Creek Elementary. I am experienced and I am ready to serve you.
Thank you very much. And we will now have Amy Green deliver her opening statement.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you to Consolidated family for hosting us. I'll echo the others up here on the panel. My name is Amy Green. I currently serve as the Vice Chair of the School Board for District 5, so it is an honor to serve our students. This truly is a calling to serve our students, our families, our community, and our educators. I know the power of public schools as an equalizer, as being able to let our students discover their dreams and reach their potential. I am a professional educator of 20 years. I'm a mother of 2. I am a strong advocate and volunteer within the community and the schools. Before joining the school board, I was a classroom parent, a PTA, a volunteer, an executive board member, a site-based council member. When the opportunity to join the school board came, I wasn't ready, but I thought, if not now, then when, if not who, then me. It has been an honor to serve, and I look forward to serving for 4 more years. Thank you.
And next up, we'll have Marilyn Clark share her opening statements.
Good evening, everybody. Everybody out there? Okay, thank you so much to Consolidated Baptist Church and Reverend Gaines for having us, Sister Sarah as well. And I just advocate for students is what I'm here to do. I am a mom of 2 students who went through Fayette County Public Schools. I'm very proud of them. My daughter has a PhD in mathematics. My son got a degree in economics, and they got a great start here. What I want for all students is what my students were able to, my children were able to receive. And that has to do with me being an advocate for those students that don't have a voice for themselves. As part of my background, I have been here in Fayette County for over 25 years, came for 5 years and ended up staying. I have been an advocate for small businesses and for economic development, and now work at the University of Kentucky. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And then our final opening statement this evening will be Monica Mundy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Monica Mundy, and my students call me Dr. Mundy. I'm an assistant professor at a university here in town. I have my PhD in education with an emphasis in health promotion and health education. I've worked in public health for 15 years, and I've had the privilege to crisscross the state and help communities find their voice and be able to be a little bit healthier. But I will say my most important job is my husband and I are parents to an 11-year-old middle school student who just started 6th grade this year, and I have a 4-year-old that will be entering kindergarten next year. So we're in it to win it with Fayette County Public Schools. I have a passion for helping our students, and I have a public servant's heart that I've been able to utilize through all these years. I've been pretty active in our schools, and I look forward to hopefully serving on school board with your vote this November.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll now begin our question and answer period for this forum, and a couple of reminders for the candidates. When you deliver your responses, try to hold your microphone a little closer to your mouth so that it'll project out and everyone can hear you clearly. And then for our crowd in attendance, we want to have no booing or cheering. Kind of keep your excitement or frustration inside until the end, if you'd like, so we can get through hearing the candidates. And we'll officially get started now, and we'll ask the first question. This will go to each of you all, and I'll tell you who will go first. But what role do you believe the school board should play in closing achievement gaps in the district, and how would you collaborate with the superintendent and other district leaders to support these efforts? And I'll repeat this too if needed throughout the evening, but we'll start first with Ms. Clark.
Thank you for that question. The achievement gap, if you think about it, really is not just about a racial group or a certain group. It's about having all the needs met for individual students. So students may have economic needs, they may have social needs, they may have issues with homelessness. And so the school district has really designed a system so that every need of a child is being met. And the way that we do that is we're taking a look at test scores, we're taking a look at what's happening in the classroom on a daily basis, and we are able to pinpoint some of the issues that students are having in real time. And we're adding some other components to that technology so that we can go in and definitely work with each one of those students. The other ways to combat achievement gaps also has to do with having supports in place for those students, whether it's mental health supports, supports at home, supports at school. So those are continuing, and we continue to invest in those as a board. Lastly, we also want to take a look at helping the families. So a lot of our focus has been on family support, family engagement, and how to work with our individual families.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we'll again ask that same question, and we'll go to Ms. Mundy. What role do you believe the school board should play in closing achievement gaps in the district, and how would you collaborate with the superintendent and other district leaders to support these efforts? You've got 90 seconds.
I feel that the school board plays a pretty important role. One of the biggest and largest things they're tasked with doing is ensuring that our budget is spent that will support our students the most, and that's within their public schools. And so that's really understanding what each individual school needs, supporting our teachers and our staff that take care of our students, and also understanding that each school may have varying needs and ensuring that we're able to meet each of those needs. We are a district that's blessed with a sizable budget. So it's definitely something that we can achieve if our tax dollars and our resources are spent in the appropriate way. And I most definitely believe it is a concerted effort to work together between the board and the superintendent. I believe the board calls themselves a team of 6, right? Being able to work together, because it's very clear in our laws exactly what a superintendent is intended to do and what our school board is intended to do, right? Our school board needs to be there, listen to the constituents, and bring that to the superintendent and work together to ensure that each and every one of our schools, teachers, administrators, parents, families have all the needs met for their particular school that they may have.
Thank you very much for that, and we'll move along and have Penny Christian share your thoughts on this. Do you need the question again, or are you? All right, so the question is, what role do you believe the school board should play in closing achievement gaps in the district, and how would you collaborate with the superintendent and other district leaders to support these efforts?
First, let me say that there's not an achievement gap. It's an opportunity gap. It's about access. So the school board is responsible for determining, yes, the budget, for determining our mission statement, our equity statement, and they're also responsible for setting the core standards, right? So when we talk about the achievement gap, I say opportunity because if my child who went to Lafayette were to transfer and go to Bryan Station, would she miss a beat? I would say yes, and the question is why. So when I talk about access, I talk about, if we're going to talk about the budget and we're going to talk about the school board providing what's needed, we have to be equitable in how we share, right? So we take all of the things, whatever the state gives us, whatever the feds gives us, whatever we gather from taxes, you make sure that every school has quality, experienced teachers, veteran teachers. We make sure that regardless of the size of the classroom, because yes, classroom size is an issue, but you know that there are some schools that have bigger classrooms than others. How do you provide the opportunity to alter what can happen in that classroom? As far as collaborating with the superintendent, he or she, whoever the superintendent happens to be, always has a set of standards and priorities, right? We need to look at those priorities. If the first priority is not academic achievement, then we're already falling behind. And Marilyn Clark is right. If we don't bring in our families and find out what the needs are, we're missing an opportunity.
Thank you very much. And the same question for you, Danny Anthony Everett. Sure.
So I would agree with Penny Christian in that it's not an achievement gap. There is what I would call a disparity in our educational system, not an achievement gap. And so in that, what I would do in terms of making sure that all of our students are able to receive a world-class education is I would follow some of the standards with the National Assessment of Educational Progress as we deal with a post-COVID pandemic situation where we've had over 20 years of student loss across the nation in terms of education. So I'd ensure access to low or no-cost meals, a reliable internet connection, place to study, and time with friends, teachers, and counselors, expand access to intensive tutoring for students who are behind in their classes and missing academic milestones, forecast budgets that prioritize the social, emotional, academic, and physical well-being of students no longer available in these past 2 years, access chronic absence by grade by improving attendance, tracking, and data, and decriminalizing attendance challenges, and provide wraparound support to students and families. I think that's how we address the disparity as opposed to the academic gap. When we say academic gap, we're indicting our students. We're saying that because you're black or because you're Latino, you don't do as well as the white and Asian students, but that's not the truth. All our students are brilliant.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we'll now move on to Amy Green with that question for you as well.
Thank you, Mario. First, is the mic appropriate? Ms. Gaines, all right, thank you. Our students are learning in our classrooms, and we have seen the gains that they have made over the last 4 years. Under the new administration and this board team, we have put in place a strategic plan that has listened to the community, and the community said, we want to see changes that we haven't seen in 20 years. And the data is showing that we don't have any of our socioeconomic and historically marginalized groups that are testing very low, measured by the state and the national level. So what makes a difference with academic and student achievement is high quality instruction and high quality educators. So the school board can continue to invest in our high quality educators and our retainment of those, our recruitment of the best teachers, those nationally board certified teachers, making sure our educators are culturally responsive, that they have the time to work together, as I think Marilyn Clark shared, to focus on the data to meet the need of each child. And that is happening in our schools. They have data meetings where they look at every student. What are their needs? Where are their areas of growth? Where are their areas of opportunity? Our educators are devoted to increasing the abilities and the access for our students. And Mr. Everett is correct. It's access and opportunity, and we need to continue to increase that, and as a board, invest in those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, for this particular question, we'll have Ms. Rutherford as well respond for 90 seconds.
Thank you. Let's get down to the facts. What Fayette County has is an achievement issue. When we look at the data from last year, 2023, and compare it to our data this year, elementary schools, 52% of them in reading are performing proficient distinguished. There was no growth from last year to this year. In math, 46% of our students are proficient and distinguished. There was no growth in elementary math from last year to this year. In middle school reading, 47% of our students are proficient and distinguished. This year, 50%, so there was a small 3% growth. In math, in 2023, 36% were proficient and distinguished. Now 43% are. So again, middle school had some growth in reading and math. High school, 48% in 2023 are proficient and distinguished in reading. This past year, 2024, 50% are distinguished and proficient reading. Math, 40%. This past year, 38%. So bottom line, we are sending our high school kids out into our community with only about half of them in reading, being able to read at a proficient level, and in math at 38%. That's not even half of our kids. What we have to do is collaborate with all of our schools and have discussions with them about what they need for our kids.
All right, well, thank you very much for your responses to the first question for you. We'll move along now to our next question. We live in an era of social media where everyone and anyone can share opinions as news and facts, and also sensationalized stories are increasingly common. How would you, as a board member, navigate interactions with these media platforms, social media platforms, to ensure accurate representation of the district's work and maintain public trust? And we'll start and begin first with Ms. Mundy.
And I definitely think you approach this matter by understanding first and foremost that our students are watching. And we need to think about how we approach social media in a way that we would want them to be able to approach it and use it as well. In my time in higher education, there's this little thing called ChatGTP. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, AI, and it has been a hot topic. Social media is a hot topic. You work hard, you make a test, and then that test is out there and every student's able to get a hold of it and see it in a few minutes. But social media, AI is one of those things that we need to lean into, and that we need to make sure that we use responsibly and we have our students use it responsibly as well. But also we need to create an environment where our students are able to be critical thinkers and are able to see what they are seeing on social media and be able to understand what they're seeing and where they can go for reliable sources for information. So if they see a random person on Twitter that makes a comment, that, they can go to the source and see if that information is accurate or not. And so in our schools, ensuring that our students are able to be critical thinkers and using social media responsibly so that they have a good example set for them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'll ask the same question to Ms. Christian. How would you, as a board member, navigate interactions with social media platforms to ensure accurate representation of the district's work and also maintain public trust? And you've got 90 seconds.
So the district has a social media policy. The school board has a social media policy. The first thing is you follow the policy. That's easy, right? So what happens is people tend to be reactive versus proactive. You understand when you go through a training, your board training, when you're elected to this position, what you should and should not do. Some of this is just about common sense and accountability. So when you're asking how I was, as a board member, would handle that, one, follow the social media policy. Monica Mundy is right when you know the babies are watching. Because if the grown-ups can't take care of themselves and grown-ups don't have any self-control, I don't know how we expect the babies to do so. At the end of the day, you hold yourself accountable. And if you flub, because we are human, you flub, you own up. Because social media is real. You can scratch it, delete it. Somebody took a screenshot, right? So we as adults have to follow the rules. And there is a clear social media policy. And if you can't follow that policy, then maybe you should just take a little break from social media and decide you need to just calm down a bit.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Everett, we'll have you respond as well.
Thank you. So actually, there is no social media policy for the school board. I found that out on being on the Equity Council and bringing up an issue about that. What I would say is that I'll work to establish ongoing communications with District's 3 constituents and encourage the board to review existing communication strategies, adjusting if necessary, to improve, update for students, parents, teachers, and staff and SBDMs, as well as business and community partners and stakeholders. And now this includes engaging constituencies, voices like the Pritchett Committee, the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy, the Kentucky Student Voices team, and others. Afterwards, I want to do a lot more in terms of establishing processes beyond that, but I think our communication is extremely important. Right now we have the perception that the board is not transparent. And that transparency perception is one that's real for a lot of people. So the board is doing things right now to change that. But I think that as well, as a board member coming in, we need to really focus on what it is that we can do that really impacts the people in each of our districts, all the constituents. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll ask Amy Green. Ms. Green, the same question.
Thank you, Mario. I think it's two parts. One, you talk about being a leader of a community, being a leader of the second largest employer in Fayette County, being the leader of an educational institution, and you have to lead by example, and that's in all forms of communications and actions. You have to lead with integrity, honesty, compassion, and empathy, understanding that everybody is carrying burdens that we can't see. And so social media may be one space that people share their thoughts and ideas, but that's not the only one. And as board members, it's our responsibility to hear from and listen to all of our constituents, those that have access to social media and those that don't, those that have access to board meetings and those that don't, those that speak our language, our common language, and those that don't. We have to make sure that we ensure we're hearing from everybody. It is our job to listen, because board members are the conduits between what the community wants and what the school board is providing, what the district is providing. And our character is our currency. And I think Ms. Monday talked about that as well. Our students are watching us. My children are watching tonight. And we need to lead by example. And no other time than now, we need to demonstrate how we can have civic discourse, disagreements, but we still come together because everyone at this table sees the priority of students in education. And so I just encourage everybody in the audience and watching and at the table, we need to lead by example, grow those communications, and I think we can. I think there's opportunities to continue to grow avenues of communication and listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Rutherford.
Thank you. Social media can be your best friend or your worst nightmare. What makes it your best friend is if you are trustworthy and honest. I feel in Fayette County, we need to build trust with our social media and what's being put on social media platforms. To build trust, we have to be proactive in our communication and not reactive. Some recent examples are a vote that was taken at a budget at a board meeting. If we had communication out about that vote, then people that evening may not have been on social media putting Fayette County down. If we put out, we are going to vote, please come, please state your opinion on this matter, then people have a voice and they are heard and they become more trustworthy of what Fayette County is doing. So I believe we have some work to do in this area by 1, building trust, 2, being proactive in our communication, not reactive, and 3, be listeners. Listen to our community, our taxpayers, our parents, our students. Thank you.
And then finally on this particular question, we'll have Ms. Clark share her response to this question about using social media platforms to ensure accurate representation of the district's work and also maintaining public trust. And you've got 90 seconds.
Okay. Having worked in the media before, it is totally a different world now. So social media platforms are things that people use for their personal use, and it's also used for relaying information about the district. When we talk about accuracy, one of the things we want to be able to do, and I think others mentioned this, is that we need to control our own narrative. If we have great things that are going on in the city or in the school district or things that we are participating in, we have that responsibility to share that with the public and share it widely. And that's something that we're working on. When you have 70 schools and you have different things going on at that school, it becomes very difficult to corral all that information. So that is something that is on our plate to deal with as a school board and as a school district, but that's what we're doing. We're trying to be more accurate. We're trying to be more open in our communication. We are hearing what people are saying and what they're asking us. We invite people to come down to the meetings. We share information on transparency in terms of what's going on with our budget, what's going on with our safety controls. And so we are doing that, and we hope that we are improving in those areas because it's really important to us. There is nothing going on behind the scenes at the school board. We are a team of 6, and we are working to improve the district. That's the message that we want to get out.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll switch to our next topic, and we'll talk about oversight and accountability. I want to ask, the school board's role includes oversight and accountability. How would you hold the superintendent accountable for the district's progress without micromanaging day-to-day operations? We'll begin first with Ms. Christian. You've got 90 seconds.
As I said earlier, the superintendent, whenever they come in, they have a strategic plan, right? They have their priorities that they want to focus on. And this, right now, this superintendent, the first priority is student achievement. So we have student achievement as the first thing. And you mentioned the word micromanage. I find that very interesting. And I'm going to do this as briefly as I can, but I'm going to go back to our prior superintendent, our previous superintendent. Manny was, I think, my first experience with understanding what happens if a board holds on too tight and that superintendent's going to push back. I think as a board, we need to understand what our role is. We know what our do's and don'ts are. We know what the statute says we're supposed to do. If we hire a superintendent and we say, this is what we expect from you, and then we have this, however often you choose to address it, check on him based on test scores or whatever, when we address issues with that superintendent without micromanaging and without utilizing outside forces, we sit down with this person and we say, this is what you said you were going to do. Here is what we see, right? So here's what we see. We're not exactly sure you're getting where you need to be, or maybe you did get where you need to be. What are our next steps? We have got to be, when Marilyn mentions this team of 6, we've got to put ourselves in a position to come as a united front and do what's best for the kids without personal opinion when dealing with the superintendent.
Thank you very much. And again, I'll ask the question to the candidates on the stage this evening. How would you hold the superintendents accountable for the district's progress without micromanaging day-to-day operations? And we'll go to Mr. Everett next.
Thank you. And so one of the things that the board is responsible for is for the policy. And the board is not responsible for the day-to-day administration. That's the purview of the superintendent. And so to make sure that there's a distinction in that, it's up to the board to really focus on policy versus administration. And so one of the things that I would say is that we got 2 areas that we're really focusing on, that we need to focus in on. That's early childhood education and K through 12 programs. And with that, what I don't see right now with the school district that I believe can be added in, and it's coming from my corporate background, is one, that there needs to be an internal rate of return and cost benefits analysis of those programs that are there and services. If we look at what that internal rate of return is, what the costs are versus what the output is, then we can better understand what works and does not work on a world-class education level. That's what world-class schools are doing. And so to be there, we have to play in that field. And so I would say that, again, our administration would be that of the superintendents, and we would look at those things that are connected to that. But I think internal rate of return and cost benefits analysis are extremely important.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Green, we'll have you answer that same question. You've got 90 seconds.
Thank you, Mario. So the board's role in oversight and accountability is there's individual things that you can do as a board member. You do your homework. You be ready with all of the information that's in front of you. You do your research. You ask those questions to the administration so that you can better understand. It is a team of 6, and everybody has a role. And when you serve in your role, then the students succeed. When we're a team and we trust each other and we collaborate, that doesn't mean we just take the answer that we hear, but that we try to understand and come to a consensus of what is best to serve our students, because improving student achievement is the #1 goal of the school board and the district. Increasing the board's governance and transparency. We have done that in the past 4 years, and it's very exciting to see that because it demonstrates to the public that accountability factors. We have a new transparency budget dashboard where you can see the finances every month and how those change. Since I've joined the school board, we have executive summaries. So every item that comes on the agenda, it has to align to a strategic priority, has to have a fiscal impact, and the policy. So as a board member, you can prepare as a board team to be best educated when we go in. How will these issues impact student achievement? And we align everything with the data. And we ask that of the administration, and it is a team effort. We hear it routinely at board meetings, and we also hear routine updates around the strategic plan and that growth that we're making in the district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Rutherford, we'll have you also respond to this question. You've got 90 seconds.
I want to make sure I understand the question. It's how will I, as a board member, look at the oversight and accountability to hold the superintendent accountable?
Correct.
Without being in a day-to-day, okay.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. I'm glad I was thinking on the right path. I believe that we need to understand the role of the school board. The school board is, if you will, the superintendent's boss. And I believe the first thing we need to do is have a conversation and make sure that we all understand what we are working for. You've heard the words an improvement plan and school report cards. Those guide the improvements we're going to make and what we're going to do. So we need to understand and work together that when we have a budget and that comes up, where do we need to put our money to meet these goals? We need to have communication. It needs to be frequent. The superintendent will not need to contact me every day to let me know what's going on, but we meet twice a month as a board. I would want to know updates. I am a person that lived by you state the problem, you monitor the problem, or good thing, whichever one, but mostly student achievement is an issue or some problem. So you state the problem, you state what you're going to do, you monitor the problem, you come up with next steps, and then when you come back together, you evaluate. So I would love to have that plan in action so that we are always focused and communicating on what needs to happen.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rutherford, and we'll have Ms. Clark now as well share your response to that question. You've got 90 seconds.
Okay, so we do have systems in place for oversight and accountability. One of the things I think people don't know is we do have an internal audit department. So that is something that's not normal at most school districts. We have a budget ROI. What is the return on investment for the budgets and the monies that we've already spent? So we can look back and say, this is what we budgeted last year. Here's how it met priorities that we had. The superintendent is a good superintendent. I want to go on record saying that the school district is extremely well run. And I know what a well-run organization looks like. I've been in enough of them. We have gone through probably 13 superintendents in the last, 20 some odd years. A part of that is having a good relationship with their board. We have an evaluation process. We followed that process. We've created a format for that. Every report that comes in to us as a school district at board meetings is a part of his goals to meet his evaluation plan, as well as the strategic plan. So all of it is coordinated together. It is not by accident. It happens on a regular basis, and we look at quarterly goals, and we look at ways in which we are improving. The other thing is that we have evidence. So we talk about evidence-based research, we talk about evidence-based data. We have evidence to show that we are meeting the goals that we've set for the superintendent. And so these may not be things that you know about because these meetings happen in closed session. When we come out of closed session at the end of the year, we will share that evaluation. That is how it's done legally, and I think that the board is on top of it, and the superintendent is running a tight ship.
Thank you very much. And then finally, we'll have Ms. Mundy talking about responding to oversight and accountability and how you would hold the superintendent accountable for the district's progress without micromanaging day-to-day operations.
Yeah, and each year, the superintendent does have an evaluation that's reported. It's communicated to the public, typically happens in July. And I've seen that evaluation go from multiple pages, strengths and weaknesses, being able to really have a good understanding of what happened that year to this year. It was one cover letter, all praise, 5 check boxes. Right? We have to make sure that our superintendent is being evaluated with the rigor that our kindergarten students are evaluated with each year. Right? And also, another piece of that is ensuring that our strategic plan is in place and that we have evaluation measures for that strategic plan, and it focuses on our students, solely there. We create and run our school system to make sure that our students' academic achievement and all needs are being met. Unfortunately, we didn't get that strategic plan for about the first year and a half that it should have been in place. And so we were without those measures. Now that we do have those, we can take a look at that, but that also plays into ensuring that we're properly communicating what's happening in our school district, that everyone knows what's taking place, and part of how we can evaluate whatever superintendent happens to be in our school district and helping to lead the way.
All right, thank you very much for your responses to those questions. We'll move to our next topic now, talking about student achievement data. Over the past 3 years, we've seen continuous improvement in student achievement data as we emerge from the pandemic. And for the first time since 2018, FCPS has no CSI campuses and no TSI campuses have been identified for any racial group or economically disadvantaged students as outliers. There's recent studies that also indicate that Fayette County Public School students are recovering from the pandemic faster than the national average. So the question for you all is, how does the Board of Education contribute to this success? And how would you collaborate with the superintendent to ensure this positive trend continues? And we'll begin first with Mr. Everett.
Thank you. One of the things I would say is that when you just announced those statistics, that's something that the general public doesn't look at. Everyone is ready to point fingers at the school board as opposed to give it any praise when praise is due. And I applaud the school board for what they're doing in those realms. I think that we need to continue doing that as well. I'd like to go back to what I said a moment ago in terms of how we measure those things to make sure that we're not only looking at what we've been looking at in the past, but how do we measure up to on a world-class education level? You know, how do we measure with schools that are in Asia, schools that are in Europe, other places around the world? Because we know those schools are doing better than a lot of schools in the United States. How do we measure up as well with the schools that are surrounding this state? You know, we know that all of the states around us have school systems where, for the most part, we see some better results. I think we're doing an excellent job here. We need to keep doing that, but I think that we need to also look beyond Lexington and beyond Kentucky and look outside and look at the rest of the world.
Thank you very much, and I'll ask the question again, and we'll have Ms. Green respond. How does the Board of Education contribute to the success of the student achievement data that I shared, and how would you collaborate with the superintendent to ensure this positive trend continues?
Thank you. The school board collaborates directly with the superintendent on improving student outcomes and achievement. But before I go any farther, I think it's important to recognize our students are more than their scores. They are a whole person. They are their dreams, their desires. They are their families. They are their full potential. And so, yes, these scores are amazing, and I'm so excited to celebrate the improvement, but our students are more than just that moment in time. Now, the test scores do show us growth, and they show us where our investments are working. We have enhanced educational opportunities, created greater access with dual credit and AP courses, increased transportation to those programs as well. Also, we have increased support for our youngest learners, and not just in our schools, but from birth to 5. This school board team and administration has really recognized the value and the data that shows that when we invest in our youngest learners, we're going to reap the benefits moving forward. And not only do we invest in those youngest learners, we invest in our students in our classrooms with the support that the data shows that they need. That includes investments in multilingual services. That includes investments in increasing gifted and talented, in special education. That includes increasing opportunities for all sorts of different learning. And the instruction that's happening in the classroom, we're seeing a shift, and this administration is showing it with the research, that deeper learning, having the students have ownership in their learning opportunities and experiences, is continuing to improve that student outcome. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Rutherford will have you respond as well. You've got 90 seconds.
Thank you. I think as a school district, we have some things, yes, that we can celebrate. Several schools did go up in their percentage points. Several schools went down. Several schools stayed the same. Overall, I mentioned to you earlier the overall Fayette County scores. I do believe kids are more than a score. However, at the end of 12th grade, if we are putting out kids that can't read or write, we've got a problem. And 50% of our kids leaving are not proficient in distinguished. Only 38% are proficient in distinguished. They have to know, 100% of our kids have to know how to read or write to be successful in our community. One thing that was mentioned is that we've been celebrating that we do not have any schools that are CSI. CSI is the lowest. It's comprehensive, targeted. We have 4 elementary schools that are in the red. That is the lowest performing in our district, okay? Most of our schools that are in TSI, that is 1 level up, they could either be orange or yellow, which would be better. Yellow would be medium scores. Our targeted assistance for special ed. Our special ed students need help in our district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll come down here and have Ms. Clark as well share her response to that question as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm very happy with the student achievement data. Just like in any situation, we're going to continue to work towards more growth for all of our students. We budget to our values, and that's one thing that I want people to understand. The things that we value, that's where we put our money. And we put our money into the teachers, into their salaries, into their benefits, into the bus drivers, into the paras, because into the instructional material. All of those things are starting to show in how things are changing for the district. We collaborate with the community, and that's one of the really big things, the really important things for me coming from the business community. The collaborations that you see that maybe people don't know about, the work that we're doing with Toyota, the work that we're doing with the Pritchard Committee, the work that we're doing with the state and the community schools, and all of those things are going to bring about even more marked changes than we've seen so far. Making changes is a change management process, and a change management process takes anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 years to start to see real growth in the district, and that's what we're working on, a change management process. And the board does contribute to that success by prioritizing our budget items and what we find important.
Thank you. And Ms. Mundy, you've got 90 seconds as well.
Thank you, and I definitely think there are ways that the board can contribute to our achievement gap. First, I want to give a big shout out to our teachers and our staff. We've seen this improvement because of the work that they have been doing with our students, and I just want to make sure that they're recognized for their efforts as well. We need to first continue to support intervention in EL support as well. Just because a school begins to perform well doesn't mean that we should take those resources away from them. They're performing well because we've given our schools, our teachers, and our staff the extra support they need to make sure our students have what they need. So we need to hold those strong. We need to ensure each school has the technology that they need to be able to be competitive. It's hard to be world class when you can't plug in your smart board and your Chromebook charging cart together, or you'll flip a breaker. Right? We got to take some time to look at our buildings and make sure that we have the technology in every single one of our schools that our students deserve to have. We need to support STEM, the arts, foreign language, and music in every one of our schools. Every child should have the opportunity to play an instrument, to be able to take art, choir, learn a foreign language, and have that STEM education, as well as ensuring that once again, each one of our schools have the tools that they need to be successful. One school may need something different than another school, and so that's listening to our teachers and our staff, listening to our administrators, understanding what they need, and making sure as a board that's being provided.
Thank you. And finally, we'll have Ms. Christian deliver her 90-second response to this question as well. And I'll repeat the question. How does the Board of Education contribute to the success, talking about student achievement data, and how would you collaborate with the superintendent to ensure this positive trend continues?
Full disclosure, I have been on the last 3 committees that have determined your state test indicators and how they are scored. I apologize. No. The blue, the green, the yellow, the orange, the red. We have to understand, first of all, that standardized testing is, yes, a small snapshot. And when we look at the district, besides the budget, yes, you prioritize your classroom, you prioritize your teachers. When you ask what the board can do, we have to look at the test scores for what they are, besides a federal mandate, right? When we collaborate with the superintendent, we go back again to that strategic plan, but also because this world is changing, we now have to talk about the portrait of a graduate or the portrait of a learner. If the board does not adopt the portrait of a graduate, then we cannot do something besides testing to assess. How do these babies master? This is about mastery, right? I can tell you personally that our youngest daughter, who just graduated last year, most of the time didn't test well because she had a 504. I'll share that she had anxiety and it impacted her. But if she didn't have alternatives, as in that portrait of a graduate, that the board supported, bravo to the board for having the portrait of a graduate, then we wouldn't really see how successful some of these babies are. Everyone doesn't test well. So when we collaborate with the superintendent, we back what they say when it comes to, I support academic achievement, and we have to support not just with money, but with action. You have to develop a plan. The board has to develop a rigorous standard of core subjects.
All right, thank you for each of your responses to that. And now we'll switch to the topic of budgets and fiscal responsibility. We'll start by talking about school boards. They are responsible for approving the district budget. How would you balance fiscal responsibility with the need to invest in student success? And also, how would you work with the superintendent to ensure the budget aligns with the district's priorities? We'll begin this portion with Ms. Green first, and you've got 90 seconds.
Thank you. And so over the last 4 years with the new administration and our board teams that we've had, we have really made an effort to make the budget process transparent. It is not one moment, but it is a year-long cycle. And so there are always opportunities for input and learning amongst that process. So that is an area that we have grown, and I look forward to continued growth. A budget really is where we take our numbers and we show where our priorities are. And our priorities are improving student achievement and access and opportunities. And research shows us one of the most fundamental ways and impactful ways is with our high-quality educators. So I think Board Member Clark talked about we spend the money on the people, and we provide them what they need and what they want. They've asked to be leaders in professional development. They are leading our professional development. Their feedback changes every year, what they are learning, what's impacting their students. We're hearing from the school levels what they need, and that comes to us. And so when we have these board discussions with the administration, we ask the school board asks, bring us initiatives that are based on data and evidence. What is truly impacting, and can that grow for the entire community? And so I'm proud of our board team for being driven by those data numbers. We also look about, I'm sorry, I made a note and then I forgot it. My time's up. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll come back to that maybe in the closing statement potentially. We'll have Ms. Rutherford as well. You've got 90 seconds, and I'll re-ask the question. School boards are responsible for approving the district budget. How would you balance fiscal responsibility with the need to invest in student success? And how would you work with the superintendent to ensure the budget aligns with the district's priorities?
Oh, the budget, my favorite topic. I believe our current budget is spent the farthest from the kids in the classroom. I believe that kids need more money spent on them. I will work to make sure that kids and teachers have the supplies and materials they need. I was aware of this with all of the teachers that were posting right before school their supply list, and it was not extravagant items like a rug or a fan. It was markers, whiteboards, pen, paper. So I want to work to make sure that kids have the learning materials they need, teachers have the supplies and materials they need. Further, we have some schools that increased. I'll use Lafayette as an example, that despite the ceiling tiles falling down, they still went up in scores. So they are doing a wonderful job. I want to make sure that money is spent on our buildings to make sure every building is equitable and they are safe and a great place to learn.
Thank you very much, and we'll come down here to Ms. Clark and ask you the same question about approving the district budget. How would you balance fiscal responsibility with the need to invest in student success? And how would you work with the superintendent to ensure the budget aligns with the district's priorities? You've got 90 seconds.
The budgeting process is a long one, and it's a very inclusive process. We always get feedback from the public, from people in the district, people that are working there, and this year was no different. We made some historic investments last fiscal year, investments in teachers, investments in raises, investments in infrastructure, investments in benefits. We offer 7 weeks of paternity leave now and disability insurance. We're putting our money where we know it would do the best, and that's in the classroom, so that those teachers that are working with our students are feeling valued. Working with the superintendent, we're in lockstep as we go through the budgeting process with the budgeting team. We see several different reports that come to us in our public meetings. And we do a return on our investment. And we talked about student supplies and teacher supplies. This year we gave teachers stipends for their classrooms. Every single teacher got a stipend to buy things for their classroom, so they're not asking the public for tissues and different things that we see. We had to buy new curriculum this year, and that's going to make a major difference. The investments that we made in bus drivers and people before, we have to continue those investments, but we're careful not to go over our budget. We are not in the red. We operate in the black. And so we are proud of that accomplishment and what we're putting forward in our budget.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Mundy, we'll have you as well respond. You've got 90 seconds.
All right. I was told by someone once that works with the district that we need to promise less and deliver more. And I wholeheartedly believe we have the resources to deliver on the first try, right? The very first time. So ensuring that each school, each teacher has what they need to be successful, and that starts at the grassroots level up. So ensuring that each school has what they need and placing that money where our kids can feel it each and every day. Ensuring that our budget aligns with our priorities that center around our students. So making sure that we have a strategic plan that will measure how our money is being spent and giving us a guide for how we need to do that. Also, being fiscally responsible is making sure that we're communicating what's taking place with our budget each and every step of the way. This year I attended a budget meeting where they passed the tax rate. There was no time for public comment. I attended the meeting where they voted on the final budget, and there was a document that was shown that had the entire budget, but it wasn't available to the public. So we have to make sure that we meet people where they are. And that means we've got to meet them at their local schools. We've got to share how our money's being spent, where it's going, and how it's going to benefit our students. And we have to listen to the people that are working with our students the most and understand what they need. You know, it's great that we were able to give our teachers $250 this year, but I still had to give a supply list because it's not enough. And I'll keep giving all throughout the year to make sure our students have what they need.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Christian, you have 90 seconds as well.
I think we need to really understand what is in the budget that the board has to pass, right? People talk about what needs to be done, that the school board needs to make sure that everything is funded. I don't necessarily want my school board to buy pencils for my child, right? And I'm not being flippant. We have school-based decision-making councils that at the school level determine what's going to happen in your classroom. And we need to understand and never forget that there are some things the school board just is not going to be responsible for financially and budgetarily. That said, what we're talking about now is an $810 million budget, $22.5 thousand per pupil allocation. That doesn't come from us. That comes from the state, right? The general fund is $67 million. Student instruction, 69.5 of our budget is dedicated to student instruction. So when we talk about the budget and we talk about what we need to do in lockstep with the superintendent, if the first priority on his list is student achievement, what does that look like, right? If we're going to talk about 69.5% for student instruction, what does that look like? For me, are all the high schools in lockstep? Is that money divided properly? Yes, my child went to Lafayette, and I'm very proud of what Lafayette has done. But you and I both know that this is more than just putting the money out there. We have to put the money where it belongs and understand what we are and are not responsible for, so that you can't always blame the board and use the superintendent as an excuse when something doesn't go right.
And then we'll have our final response on this topic from Mr. Everett.
Sure. So when we look at the budget, we have to understand that the budget is a result of the strategic planning process. And what I see right now with the school board, there's an infrastructure. We can go online, we can see what is in the budget, what is being spent, how it's being spent, how it's being allocated. All of those things are there. Again, I agree with Ms. Christian on the fact that the SBDM gets monies from the school board, and that's where a lot of the money at the local level is spent, the local school level. And so in looking at that, we have to make sure that we understand there's a difference. You know, the school board, the district does certain things, and the SBDM for those schools does certain other things. One of the things that I think that the school district can do right off in this particular election is to, and not legally in a sense, but in some ways to make it so that people are encouraged to know that this amendment to this on the Constitution is something that's going to take away from the school budgets. $52 million that we're looking at that will be drained from Fayette County in 1 year, and that would leave us devastated if we were to lose $52 million. And so then also we have to really look at how we negotiate the ESSER funds, the funds that come from COVID that will no longer be there. And so that's something what we need to do. My time is up.
Thank you very much, and we'll move on to our next topic this evening. The mission of Fayette County Public Schools is to create a collaborative community that ensures that all students achieve at high levels and graduate prepared to excel in a global society. So the question for you all is, in what ways do you believe the board should advocate for equitable access to resources and opportunities for all students, especially historically marginalized groups? And we'll begin this portion with Ms. Rutherford.
We need equitable access for our students. That would go back to the budget, putting money in student materials, allocating so that the SBDM for that school can make a decision. Our staffing allocations are based on numbers. So for example, when I was at Russell Cave, if I had 250 kids, it's divided by how many elementary students there are. I get that many primary teachers. I get that many secondary or fourth, fifth grade teachers. My issue was an ESL issue. I needed an ESL teacher at every grade level. Because my numbers are low and you divide out the 250 kids, I got 1.5. So somewhere through the SBDM and the allocation that comes from the board allocates how much money I get, I have to figure out and take care of that need for these kids. I've worked at other schools in the district, Booker T, Harrison, Yates, Mill Creek. They all have different issues. We need to go to those schools and say, what do you need for your students to be proficient before they even leave elementary school, so that we're not trying to teach kids to read in high school. We have to figure out what our kids need and talk to them, and every school is different.
Thank you very much. We'll come back down here to Ms. Clark, and I'll ask the question again. In what ways do you believe the board should advocate for equitable access to resources and opportunities for all students, especially historically marginalized groups? And you've got 90 seconds.
Thank you. One of the things that the board has taken an investment in is our preschool programs. A lot of times kids start school behind. And so investments in preschool has been a big priority for the school board. We have standardized our curriculum. So when you have standardized curriculum, you can go from school to school and still get the same rigor. Attendance, we have people who are knocking on doors to make sure that our students are attending classes. If they don't attend, they cannot learn. So that is a really big issue for us. The grants that are coming down the road for next year for the magnet schools, the work that we're putting into Harrison Elementary with 3 new preschool classrooms and a new playground, the work that's going into community schools at Northern and Mill Creek, and all of those together are going to make a really big difference in creating more equitable schools for our students that are in diverse backgrounds. We do have additional monies. When there's additional monies left in the budget in Section 7, it goes to schools that have the most need. That's always a priority. And then we also, again, reevaluate where we are with test scores, with resources, so that we can create more opportunities and more access for our students. That's always a priority, always a priority.
And Ms. Mundy, you've got 90 seconds.
There are definitely things that our board can do, increasing community and family engagement, really being there in our schools, in our families, and reaching them where they are, as well as improving relationships with our community and our businesses, right? If we're going to compete on a global stage, then our students need to see what that looks like. And that is with partnerships with businesses, and making sure that they see what it really means to be an active participant in their community. And that includes ensuring that every student is college and career ready, from preschool all the way to whatever career our students decide that they want to take on. I 100% believe our students are not a test score, and I've also advised first-generation college students who've sat in front of me with a 13 ACT score and tell me they want to be a nurse, and we figure out how to make it happen. It's not a straight path, right? But we can make sure that our students are ready for that well beyond before they sit in front of a college professor as they're moving forward with their career. Also, getting back to the basics, focusing on financial literacy with our students, making sure that they know how the world works outside of the classroom as well. So there's lots of ways that we can continue to support our students in this manner to make sure that they're ready once they're done in our school system.
Thank you very much, Ms. Christian. And I'll repeat the question again for everyone. The question is, here we go, let me pull it up in front of me. The mission of Fayette County Public Schools is to create collaborative community that ensures all students achieve at high levels and graduate prepared to excel in a global society. In what ways do you believe the board should advocate for equitable access to resources and opportunities for all students, especially historically marginalized groups?
Three things jump out at me. The first thing is, third grade is when our black and brown boys start getting targeted. Third grade is when testing begins. Third grade is when we start tracking. Who deserves to be in gifted and talented? Who deserves to be sent to MLK, right? Third grade. So we need to put some more emphasis on what happens in third grade with all of our kids, but especially with our black and brown boys, which leads me to the second point. The board is responsible for establishing and creating the discipline and behavior policy for the district. We have got to look more at restorative practices when we look at a national trend of our black and brown students who are suspended and expelled exorbitantly more than their white counterparts. That is not a coincidence. So the question is, how do we address that? If you have more of a restorative practice in the actual district policy, then the schools have a little bit more guidance on how to deal with discipline and behavior issues. And the third thing is a big thing I've been screaming for years. We have got to find a way to partner with LFUCG. Our city government is not partnering with this district the way it should. It's a siloed work. The district is siloed, LFUCG is siloed, UK is siloed. When we talk about the three major employers, if we do not have a relationship with the city government where they support in every aspect Fayette County Public Schools, we're missing out on an opportunity for everything to be better. Our economy, workforce, everything has to be done better. So if we look at those three things, I think we'll see a difference, and the board can make a huge impact that way.
Mr. Everett, will I have you answer and respond to the same question?
So I would say, first and foremost, early childhood engagement. I want to echo some of what Marilyn Clark was saying, that we're doing some things in that focus. But I think that if we look at pre-K education right now, we currently don't have, we have less than 50% of our pre-K students who are ready for school. We got to address that. That's going to take care of third grade. That's going to take care of all of that. But we know by third grade, if they can't read, there's a prison cell in rural Kentucky that's being built for them. And so we need to address that issue. I also will go on to say, though, that the challenges in our district align with problems of inequity across the Commonwealth and the nation. In Fayette County, only recently have we made a major and significant dent in addressing academic achievement gap between white and Asian students, Latinx and black students, who make up the majority of the population. Support for the unhoused students in our district was devastating over the last year and is outpacing this year. Immigrant and refugee students are often dehumanized as illegal and have no academic or vocational path forward. Students feel and lack a sense of belonging in school because their differences are viewed as deficits. We've got to change all of that. We need to embrace a multi-layered, diverse perspective on addressing issues in our district dealing with equity. And time is up, so I will leave it there.
And then we'll have Ms. Green respond for the final part of that question or the section.
Did you want me to respond to Dr. Everett?
To the initial question that I asked, I'll reread it again. In what ways do you believe the board should advocate for equitable access to resources and opportunities for all students, especially historically marginalized groups?
Thank you, Mario. I think there's three things. One, we have to realize our students need the holistic support, and I'm very proud of our increase in supporting the whole child. Over the past 4 years, we have put nurses in every single school. We have also worked about increasing our mental health specialists in our schools. Our students need to know that they are cared for as humans, and our families need to know that too, that when their students and their children are in our buildings and even outside of our buildings, we care about them as humans and we are providing those supports. Speaking to behavior and restorative practices, I do want to clarify, we are practicing restorative practices in all of our schools. And so student support has really grown that practice and made it in-house, where we're going and training all of our buildings and our staff, and we're seeing the benefits, because that's one of the things the board asks is behavior data reviews on a regular basis. And so we are seeing the impact that is having to have restorative practices, and it's having a positive impact in our data for behavior. Another one for equitable access has to be an increase in opportunities and access. And so that includes having access to that pre-K, as Dr. Everett had mentioned as well, access to college and career-ready opportunities. I'm very excited about our CTE building downtown that we're going to have. It's going to be a world-class opportunity to collaborate with the community and our higher education partners to show our students what they can do to make a difference. And then lastly, to connect with our families. And so I'm excited about continuing that work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're getting down to the final two questions, if you're wondering. So stick around. We've got 2 questions left this evening of our candidates, and we'll start with this question here. Board members make decisions that affect the entire district, but often the feedback they receive comes from individuals with grievances or concerns. So the question is, how would you ensure that your decisions are guided by what is best for most students and the community, rather than being influenced primarily by those who voice complaints? And we'll begin first with Ms. Clark. You've got 90 seconds.
So one of the things that I've noticed since I came onto the board was that there are a lot of naysayers. I didn't really expect that, but I do think that the decisions we make have to be grounded in what we value. And so when people come to board meetings or they express themselves in public, they have a right to have that voice. And we welcome that voice because people want to be heard, and we want to respect each person that comes to the table. But at the end of the day, the decisions we make have to be in the best interest of each and every student in our community. And we have to take those decisions seriously, and I really do. So you have to have a tough skin in order to deal with some of the decisions that we make, because they're not easy decisions to make. I just want people to understand we're ordinary citizens up here wanting to serve the community, and it is not an easy job. The time that we spend going through all the documents, all the information, asking all the questions to represent you, that is what we're doing. And we want to make great decisions on behalf of you and behalf of all the students that we're in charge with. That's our goal. That's why we're here. That's why we're going through all of this. We're going through all this for a reason, and it's because it's important. And so we do want to make great decisions, and they are not easy decisions to make.
Thank you very much, Ms. Clark. And Ms. Bundy, I'll ask you the same question. How would you ensure that your decisions are guided by what is best for most students and the community, rather than being influenced primarily by those who voice complaints?
The first thing I want to say is I think we're all here because we want to serve, and a part of being an elected official is listening to all of your constituents, and that includes the complaints as well, because you may be getting that and you may view that as a complaint, but that parent, that student, that teacher is telling you something that means something to them, and that's having an impact for their student or their child or their granddaughter, and that's something that we really do need to take seriously and take that to heart, and take the role that we have, that we step up to serve and do, and understand that comes with the territory. And one way to do and to really understand people's concerns is to give them a place to communicate with the board on a regular basis. Board meetings are great. They're at a tough time, at a tough place, and you have to get there before the meeting to sign up to even be able to speak. So if you're late, you're out of luck, right? And you may or may not get to talk to a board member. They may or may not have the time to talk to you, but creating those spaces so that those concerns can be heard is pretty darn important, right? And understanding that by increasing communication, you then are going to create a space, build trust, understand what's happening in the community. But in order to do that, you got to be there. And you have to create those channels for that to take place.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Christian, I'll ask you the same question. Board members make decisions that affect the entire district, but often the feedback they receive comes from individuals with grievances or concerns. How would you ensure that your decisions are guided by what is best for most students and the community, rather than being influenced primarily by those who voice complaints?
I need to be able to sleep at night. And I would assume that that would be the case with everyone up here and those who are currently serving on the board. My take on complaining is a little bit different. There's nothing wrong with criticizing or critiquing. But when you complain for the sake of complaining because someone didn't do what you wanted them to do, then we have a problem with communication at its base level. Again, reactive versus proactive. So you may have a concern. You may have a situation that requires some attention. But this is where we need to understand what the board can and cannot do, what we are allowed to do, and the do's and don'ts. And one thing that the board cannot do is list, it's in the KSBA, the Kentucky School Board Association guide. You cannot be unduly influenced by the public to make a decision that goes against your charge and goes against your policy. You've got to keep that your north. Keep that policy at your center, because if it keeps you grounded, then you won't have as many problems. Yeah, you're going to have a tough skin. You're right about it, Marilyn Clark. Anyone in public service has to have a tough skin. But you're having this tough skin, I'm assuming yet again that you're doing it because you want what's best for these babies. And if you're not, then maybe this business is not for you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Christian, we'll now have Mr. Everett respond as well to that question. You've got 90 seconds.
Could you repeat the question once again?
I sure will. So the question for this section is, how would you ensure that your decisions are guided by what is best for most students and the community, rather than being influenced primarily by those who voice complaints?
Well, my experience has been that I'm very good at that. I will listen, and I will come to my own decision. But as a board member, with the rest of the board, we would compromise what it is that we think is correct or the best thing to do for the students. One of the things I mentioned a moment ago is communications, and our work to establish ongoing communications with District 3 constituents and encourage the board to review existing communication strategies, adjusting, if necessary, to improve updates for students, parents, teachers, and staff, and for all the stakeholders that are involved, all the different organizations and what have you. And so one of the things that I've witnessed as I've knocked on doors in my community is that people have different problems, but some of the problems are similar to what we've dealt with, or what I've dealt with. One of the ladies that I knocked on her particular door, and I saw her daughter and her son there at the door. And I noticed the son was on the ground. Her son has cerebral palsy. He can't stand. He needs a walker, and he's learning to be able to walk with that. I want to continue to communicate with that woman. I want to communicate with other people like that, if that's knocking on doors or if it's other ways that we do it as a board. As a parent who has a daughter who has cerebral palsy, I can relate to that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Green will have you respond as well to that particular question. You've got 90 seconds.
All right. Thank you, Mario. I think it's important to recognize that my focus and our entire board team's focus is on the students. Our decisions are lasered in on what is best for those students. It's important to hear from our entire community because we serve our entire community. We are elected in specific districts, but my belief is we serve every child, every taxpayer, every parent, every person that is employed in Fayette County. And it is important to not only respond and listen with compassion and empathy to those that have the ability to reach out to us, whether it's to come to a board meeting or to send us an email, but we need to be extra careful to reach out to those that can't be heard, that maybe they speak a different language. How can we reach out to them with our translation services? For those that are maybe working 3 jobs, and when they get home at 3 in the morning, they don't have time to type up an email. And so we need to make sure we're listening to the schools. What are our staff telling us about what those students need? And so I've taken upon myself to reach out and go into all of the schools and to listen to those educators and those students, go to their performances, go to their celebrations, hear about their issues, so that I'm getting a holistic picture of what is happening within our schools. Listening to our families. When we have family and community engagement activities, I'm so proud of our family and community engagement department. They have done a great job with outreach even here in this building, and just giving our students and our families a voice in their educational process, because we are benefiting not only this generation, but generations to come. So everyone deserves a voice.
Thank you very much. And then our final comments on this second to last question is from Ms. Rutherford. You've got 90 seconds.
Thank you. Fayette County Public Schools has policies and procedures they have to follow. Each school has site-based decision-making policies and procedures they need to follow. Sometimes there are things that arise that don't fit in a policy and procedure. What you need to do is ask questions. Someone comes to talk to you, listen, ask questions, talk to the good of the group. In this case, it would be the school board. Present the data, the facts, based on your conversation, and make a decision that is right for the kids. It may not be a popular decision. People may get mad at you for making a decision based on kids. What I used to tell staff is, you hired me to be your principal. I will listen. I will make the final decision. The board has the same responsibility. We need to get out and talk to our schools. We don't just need to do this during a campaign year when we're up for re-election. We need to be out all the time. I will be at this school if I'm elected to the board, and I will know how your school runs. What I know from being in all of the schools is each school runs differently and has different issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we've made it to our final question for this evening. You can cheer if you'd like for that. I'm kidding. But our final question for our candidates this evening. Some people argue that when a school board consistently votes unanimously on matters presented by the superintendent and his or her team, it is simply acting as a rubber stamp. Others believe it reflects a strong professional working relationship, meaningful dialogue, and trust in the superintendent's expertise. How do you view this dynamic, and would it influence how you cast your votes as a board member? And we'll start this final section with Ms. Bundy.
And I definitely think that discussion is healthy. And as human beings, we know that we're all not going to agree all of the time. And that includes 6 different individuals who 5 of them represent different areas across the district and may have different opinions on certain topics. We definitely don't need a board that will just agree all the time with the superintendent. And it's healthy to show our students that we can think critically, we can have a responsible and respectful discussion as a board. And we can come to conclusions and make decisions that do exactly what we need to do, which is put our students first, right? Make sure that our students are at the center of everything that we do. And so I don't necessarily think that you have to come into a board meeting understanding that we're all going to agree on a certain topic. There are rules around communicating outside of those board meetings and having a quorum and making sure that the public is present and get the opportunity to hear that discussion as it takes place. So that's definitely something that's very important to happen and to be public facing. But you definitely don't have to agree all the time on every topic. It's healthy to be able to have those discussions and hear public opinion and make those decisions for everyone to be able to see.
And Ms. Christian, we'll have you as well respond to that question, and you've got 90 seconds.
So, my poor husband had 5 females in the house at the same time. And every time one of them would graduate or go off to college, he would say, oh, the balance of power is shifting. All that to say, no, you're not always going to agree. And it is healthy. Some would believe, yes, you are rubber stamping because you always agree. There was no dissension. Well, first of all, we don't know that there wasn't any dissension because we don't know what happened behind the scenes, right? So we don't know what happens when you get to that 6-0 vote, that 5-0 vote, whatever the vote is. I will say that people will start to wonder if there's always a 4-1 vote and the one never shifts. I will say that people will start to wonder if you didn't have a closed session and you had a discussion for 3 minutes and no one asked any questions or had a discussion, and then everyone unanimously votes. I think it's the 2 sides of the same coin, right? But as long as you communicate and as long as it appears to the public, which is extremely important, because right now the public has a trust issue with the board. As long as you communicate publicly what you can communicate publicly, I'm okay with a unanimous vote. I'm not so okay with that one when the one is just a contrarian.
And Mr. Everett, we'll let you as well respond to that question.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. Some people argue that when a school board consistently votes unanimously on matters presented by the superintendent and his or her team, it is simply acting as a rubber stamp. Others believe it reflects a strong professional working relationship, meaningful dialogue, and trust in the superintendent's expertise. How do you view this dynamic, and would it influence how you cast your votes as a board member?
So how I view this dynamic is that you've got 5 different people that are coming to the table. It's not a tabula rasa. It's not just a blank slate of paper, but they come with their own objectives, their own ideas, their thoughts, and what have you. I come to the table with educational leadership as my doctoral research area, as well as my volunteering in school districts, not only here but in other places, as well as even doing programs and all of that. And so I come with a plethora of experiences to the table to be able to bring to the school district. When I'm listening to others around the table, I've been in enough board meetings to be able to be polite and to listen to others and to compromise when necessary, even to sway people in the direction that I think that we should go. I think this is the dynamics of being on any board, and especially a policy board. We've really got to focus on the fact that everyone is different, everyone comes with different ideas. And I think it's up to the public to understand who has the experiences, who has the education, all of that they're bringing to the table, so that now there's a higher level conversation that's taking place at that table.
Thank you very much for that response. And then we'll also go to Ms. Green. You've got 90 seconds.
Right, thank you. I think the one main thing to really focus on is that a school board is not an I sport, it is a we sport. The only thing that happens is when you work together as a team. That is when votes happen, that's when things get impacted. And so the team is crucial. It has to be built on trust and respect and understanding of each other's roles and expertise. So it truly is a team of six. I think everyone at the board, at the table here has mentioned the team of six. And so understanding everybody else's roles and expertise, and then doing your job when you come to the table, being prepared, doing the research, asking the questions of the administration. And so Dr. Monday was correct. You cannot, before there's a vote, you can only talk with one other board member. So really going into meetings, it's whether your work as an individual, asking those questions, doing that research so that you come as prepared as possible, but also coming prepared with an open mind, that you may learn something new before a vote happens, and being willing and trusting enough to know that your teammates at that dais are there for the same reason as you, and that's to improve the student outcomes. It's important to come with that critical thinking and to ask those questions. It's important that we have that strong relationship with the superintendent, because we can ask him to provide that feedback from all stakeholders, provide the feedback from the students to help inform our votes, provide the feedback from the staff, from our families, from our community and business partners, from the experts in education at the state and beyond. And so it truly is a team effort. And I don't think I'm looking at the end vote. I'm looking at the beginning when we walk in together. If we're focused on our students, then the outcome is going to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Rutherford, you also have 90 seconds.
Thank you. Recently, the Board of Education at a board meeting released their portrait of a graduate, and wants our students who graduate to have collaboration skills, critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, social-emotional skills. These are very much needed, especially when currently half of our students can't read or write to a proficient and distinguished level. So hopefully if they have these skills, they can maintain a job. What we need is for our students to be able to read and write and have these skills. With that being said, I feel like our board needs to model these portrait of a graduate skills. I have attended some board meetings, and it does appear that some have a rubber stamp. They go, okay, 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 and thank you, thank you, thank you. Sometimes a question is asked, and that person is not treated with respect. These are my opinions. I will tell you, I will ask question. As a team player, you learn to ask question. To work collaboratively, you must ask questions. You must also state opinions that others may not agree with. So you have to come with the social skills that I can agree to disagree with you, but I don't hate you. I'm not going to put you down. We have to have those conversations and teach those, and our board needs to model those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we'll finally have Ms. Clark share her response as well.
Thank you very much. There was a point in time when I worked for the district when school board meetings would last until midnight. Seriously, midnight. And one of the things that we talked about shortly after I got on the board, we had a board retreat, and we talked about how meetings are conducted, and we wanted them to be done in a professional manner. That means that we come to the board meetings prepared. That means that we have looked through our packet, we've scribbled, we've made notes, we've sent in questions. And the thing about asking questions, yes, ask questions in a board meeting, but also know that sometimes it takes 6 or 7 people to answer that question for you, because it has to go down the line so that that information is back to you so that you have a good sense of what you're agreeing to. We don't show up to have a fight. We do have disagreements. We do talk through things. We don't always agree with every single thing that's handed down. We're not trying to give that impression. But what we do have is a strong sense of how we want to move forward. And we have a good, strong sense of where we are in our strategy, how that strategy is working, what are the returns on our investment, so that we understand where we are. So when I come to board meetings, I'm learning a lot of new information. And that's when we ask questions. That's when it becomes a joy, not when you get there and everything is helter-skelter. Our board meetings are held in a great way. I think that they're very organized, and we are there asking questions on your behalf, and we're listening to people as they come to the mic to express their opinions.
Thank you very much. And now we'll move into the closing statements portion, and each candidate here on the stage will have 1 minute to share their closing statement, and we'll stick to the time 100% for that. All right, so when this order was drawn at random, so we'll begin first with Monica Mundy. You've got 1 minute.
And once again, I want to thank Consolidated Baptist Church and everyone here for having us, and for everyone who's watching us out there on Facebook as well. Know that if elected come November that I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to every single constituent, rather if it's a complaint, if it's praise, and I'm going to come to you and make sure that that takes place. I'm going to ask questions, and I will be there for our students each and every day, and understand that what's most important is that those students, our teachers, our staff, those people that we trust each and every day with our families, have what they need to ensure that our students have the best education that they can have. So my name is Monica Mundy, and once again, I'll hope for your vote this November.
Thank you very much, Candidate Mundy, and we'll now have Betsy Rutherford share her closing statement.
I'm experienced, 32 years experience. I know about schools in Fayette County. I am ready to work on student achievement to ensure that our students are proficient, distinguished, and ready in math, in reading and math. I am ready to have a high level of communication from day one. I am ready to work on the budget to make sure our students achieve. I am ready to serve the little student that was sitting in the middle here. I'm ready to serve my granddaughter asleep over here. I'm ready to serve all of your kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Candidate Rutherford. And now we'll have Amy Green share her closing statement.
Thank you. It is an honor to serve on the school board. This is truly a calling, and it's been such a blessing to serve these 4 years, and I look forward and am hopeful to serve more. This is an act of love for me. Public schools provided access and opportunities for me that weren't available outside of the schools. And I will continue to give back in any possible way, whether it's from homeroom parents to the PTA to the SBDM councils to the school boards, because our public schools are a driver of our democracy and a foundation of our communities. And so when we lift our students, we are changing not just their generation, but the future generations to come. So I am humble. I love to learn. I'm active and try to be out in the schools as much as possible. I listen with compassion and empathy, and it would truly be an honor to continue to serve our students, families, staff, community, and everybody here in Fayette County. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Candidate Green. And now we'll have Candidate Marilyn Clark share her closing statement.
Thank you, and thank you again for this opportunity. I believe that this is a pivotal election. We have 3 seats open on the school board. We are at a place where we are building momentum. We're making progress. This is not the time to flip the board. This is a time where we need stability. Stability in leadership, stability in our sense of direction, stability in what we want to accomplish. And I am here to do the job. This is the job I've been called to do. I plan to do it with excellence. And I'm asking for your vote on November 5th, or whenever you go to the polls, because this is pivotal. What happens with our students, what happens with our children, is the basis of this entire community. We have to do this right, and we have to have the right people in this seat who have an agenda that is nothing more than to work for our students. That's it. That should be the only agenda we have coming to the table. So that's where I am. Vote for me, District 1, Marilyn Clark, been in the role for 2 years. Thanks.
Thank you very much, candidate Clark. And next we'll have Anthony Everett share his closing statement.
Thank you. I want to thank Pastor Gaines. I want to thank this church as well as all of you who are here this evening. You don't have to be here, but you're here, and I'm respectful of that and of your time. I'm a husband, a father, scholar, and a passionate advocate for social change, as well as a product of the public school system of Washington, D.C. As a 15-year resident of Fayette County, I believe all students deserve a world-class education accomplished through early childhood engagement, equitable schools, and experienced and effective leadership. I'm an academician at 3 institutions of higher education, teaching and mentoring at the undergraduate, graduate, and doctorate levels. And again, my educational leadership background is part of what I bring to the board. And so I humbly request your support for me by voting Danny Anthony Everett as your next District 3 representative to the Fayette County Public Schools Board of Education. And you can learn more about me at DAEFOR3.com, that website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidate Everett. And then we'll have Penny Christian share her closing statement.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you to Pastor Gaines. Thank you all for coming out. The more you hear from us, I think the more you can make an informed decision, regardless of whoever you vote for. I will say that, and I guess everyone could probably echo this, when you decide to run, the first question everyone asks you is, besides why, is what makes you the best candidate? What makes you the most experienced? I would venture to say there's always going to be someone qualified, someone experienced. What I'm saying is I may not be the most experienced, I may not be the most qualified. What I am right now is necessary. This is about time. This is about opportunity. I've been running from this for years, and I feel like now is where I need to be. Here is where I need to be. But before I ask you for your vote, do your research. Find out information, everything you need to know about Kentucky School Board Association and Fayette County Public Schools, and then if you choose to vote for me, please do so. Thank you.
All right, let's give a big round of applause to our candidates running for District 1, District 3, and District 5. And as a reminder, all of these candidates, their names will be on the November 5th or November general election ballot, whether you vote on Election Day or the leading up to it. Again, we appreciate your time, and thanks everyone for coming out this evening. And Pastor Gaines, I believe he has some closing remarks for everyone.
I would simply ask you again to give our distinguished group here another hand of applause, if you don't mind. On behalf of myself and all the others gathered, we thank you all for giving up your time to coming out this evening and sharing with us here, and we'll be praying for you along the way. I also want to take a moment and say thank you to our moderator, Mario Anderson. Can you say thank you to him as well? I hope tonight that you leave here informed more so than when you entered the doors, that you heard things you may have had concerns about, that you're closer to making a decision on who you will vote for come election time. This is a very critical election for this board, for this city, for the state, and for the nation. But we want to start tonight to make those decisions that we might be clear, that when the dust is cleared, we have people in place that need to be in place to educate all of our 45,000 plus kids in Fayette County and do it effectively. and preparing them for the rest of their lives. We also want to remind you that the League of Women Voters will have some events. All righty, there's a code on the screen that you can take with your phone, and it will provide you information on upcoming events for the League of Women Voters. Events already happened. All righty, thank you. Say that one more time. Amen. You all get that? All righty. Want to make sure you got as much information as you need going forward. I mentioned earlier that there were a lot of things on the ballot. I don't want you to leave without saying, when we dismiss, you can talk to the candidates outside in the vestibule. They have information they can share with you about their candidacy. Also, you'll get to see some information there on Amendment 2. These are persons that would be working for the public school. We've heard a lot about budgeting, and people are wondering, what is this Amendment 2? There's information printed outside that you can take a look at that will clarify what's at stake and how you vote on Amendment 2. I don't tell people who to vote for, but you really need to dig into this. Don't let the slick ads and the flyers that come convince you that's the way to go. There's one pot of money in the state of Kentucky. Just one. Just one. And if you remove part of it to another option, there has been a depletion of funds available to the public school. That's the bottom line. I'll say again, this is a moral issue. Don't let the smoke fool you. Be prepared, be informed, get the information before you leave as it relates to Amendment 2, because that is huge for the state of Kentucky. You heard the candidates talk about, at least one mention, the significance of that amendment. In every county, literally, where there's a school, the schools tend to be the main economic driver in many of those places. If you reduce their input to the community, you're going to affect the whole economic stability of that community. So please, parents, look at it, make informed decisions. If you don't understand, do your research and ask somebody. Much is at stake as we move forward. So again, thank you, Mario. Thank you, our guests that have come out tonight. Thank you, candidates, for coming and sharing your hearts tonight. Can we bless them one more time? Now, one thing we always do that I forgot to do when we come into this place is we open with prayer. Well, we're going to close in prayer. So allow me opportunity, and then we can just meet everybody in the foyer. So let's pray. Thank you, O God, for what we've heard today, what our eyes have seen, our ears have heard. Grant us wisdom now to process the information so that comes time to cast our vote, we might not do so frivolously, but we might do so from an informed and inspired perspective. God, we pray for those even now that will be elected, that you would grant them your wisdom, that they may be able to make the right decision as it relates to the care and well-being of all the children of this district Fayette County Public Schools serves. God, give us safe travel as we head home, and we'll be careful to give your name glory, honor, and praise. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. All righty, information available in the lobby for all that desire, and you can interact with the candidates a bit more.